The number one question I'm getting flooded with this week is this. If the Genius Act already passed, if stablecoins are already legal, if Ripple is already orchestrating $13 trillion in payments, then why is XRP still trading like nothing has happened? Why is the price flat while the entire regulatory architecture of the United States is being rewritten in real time? Let me pull back the curtain, because what I'm about to walk you through is not being explained to retail investors the way it should be. While the crowd is staring at red candles and arguing about short-term price action, something far bigger just shifted in Washington. The Senate Banking Committee just advanced the Clarity Act. The American Bankers Association is in open panic, and a sitting congressman just publicly admitted that Genius was only the cell tower. Clarity is the cell phone. The world missed the signal. You won't.
Make sure to like and subscribe and drop a comment below with your opinion on XRP. And watch until the end, because the final minutes reveal why July 13th could change everything. Welcome back. I'm the Calm Analyst, and on this channel we don't trade on emotion. We decode the structure underneath the noise. Today we examine why the Clarity Act is not just another bill, why the legacy banks are terrified, and why XRP is positioned to absorb the institutional capital that has been waiting on the sidelines for 17 years. Let's jump in. Let's start with the hard truth. 90% of people watching the crypto market right now are staring at the wrong thing. They're watching candles. They're watching Bitcoin dominance. They're watching tweets. What they should be watching is the construction of a two-part regulatory machine that, once completed, will route trillions of dollars of institutional capital into a very small number of compliant networks. Here's the mechanism almost nobody is explaining correctly. The Genius Act, signed into law, did one specific thing. It legalized and standardized dollar-backed stablecoins inside the United States. That is the cell tower. That is the broadcast infrastructure. A cab driver in Brazil can now hold dollars in a tokenized form. A treasurer at a Fortune 500 company can now legally hold a stablecoin on the balance sheet. The signal exists. But a cell tower without a cell phone is useless. You can broadcast all you want. If there is no device that can legally receive, route, and settle that signal at the institutional layer, the whole network sits idle. That cell phone is the Clarity Act. Clarity does what Genius could not. It defines which agency regulates which digital asset. It draws the line between a security and a commodity. It tells every bank, every broker-dealer, every custodian, and every Fortune 2000 CFO exactly what they are allowed to touch and under what conditions. Without clarity, institutions cannot deploy capital at scale. With clarity, the floodgates don't just open. They get ripped off the hinges. This is why Tom Emmer used that exact metaphor on national television. This is why Brad Garlinghouse called it the ChatGPT moment for crypto. And this is why the American Bankers Association is publicly fighting a bill that has nothing to do with banking deposits, because they know what's actually being built. The architecture is almost complete, and XRP was designed from day one to be the settlement layer that sits underneath it. Now let's do the math the retail crowd ignores. Last year, Ripple Treasury, formerly G Treasury, acquired specifically for this purpose, orchestrated $13 trillion in corporate payments. $13 trillion. That is not a typo. That is the volume already running through Ripple's enterprise infrastructure. Of that $13 trillion, the percentage settled via crypto or stablecoins was 0. Not 1%, not 0.5%, 0. Think about what that number actually means. It means the pipes are built, the customers are onboarded, the dashboards are deployed, and the only thing standing between the legacy rail and the blockchain rail is regulatory permission. Now layer in the global figure. $33 trillion in stablecoin trades globally in 2025. Cross-border payments shifting from a 3 to 5 day settlement window down to 60 seconds. The total addressable market for cross-border value transfer is $150 trillion annually. Forex markets clear $7.5 trillion every single day. Here is the math. If XRP captures even 0.5% of the cross-border payment market, not the whole thing, half of 1%, that is $750 billion of annual settlement volume routed through a network with a fixed supply of 100 billion tokens, of which roughly 55 billion are circulating, and a meaningful portion of which are locked in escrow, lost, or held in institutional cold storage. Now ask the brutal question. If you are a corporate treasurer at a Fortune 500 company and you need to move $100 million to Manila by Tuesday, how many XRP do you need at $1 versus at $20 versus at $100? The higher the price, the fewer tokens required, the lower the slippage, the more efficient the bridge. This isn't a prediction. It's a design requirement. The price has to rise for the network to function at institutional scale. If you have a problem with that, you don't have a problem with me. You have a problem with the laws of liquidity. While retail is asking why the price isn't moving, look at who is actively positioning right now. Ripple acquired Hidden Road. Ripple acquired G Treasury and renamed it Ripple Treasury. These are not vanity purchases. Hidden Road is a prime brokerage clearing over $3 trillion annually. G Treasury sits inside the corporate finance stack of thousands of multinational companies. You do not spend that kind of capital unless you have absolute clarity on where the regulatory framework is going. Look at JP Morgan publishing institutional research notes on the MasterCard Ripple integration. Look at the German banking analysts on Bank XRP, and I'll quote this because it's important, saying the fundamentals are the owner walking forward, the price is the dog still sniffing around. That is not retail FOMO language. That is institutional positioning language. Look at the global regulatory map. The European Union has MiCA. Singapore has Project Guardian. Hong Kong has Project Ensemble. The United Kingdom has the Digital Securities Sandbox. Every major financial center on Earth is racing to write rules for the same asset class at the same time. That is not coincidence. That is coordinated infrastructure deployment. And look at the panic of the legacy banks. The American Bankers Association is publicly opposing the Clarity Act. They are claiming it will drain community bank deposits, a claim that Coinbase's chief policy officer correctly called total fiction, citing 10 years of stablecoin adoption data showing zero impact on community deposits. So why are they really fighting it? Because they understand what you are now learning. The cell phone is being built, and the moment it is finished, the customers stop calling their bank and start calling the network. Does a trillion-dollar firm position into infrastructure without certainty? Absolutely not. They don't gamble. They position, and they have been positioning for over 2 years. Here is the timeline that matters, and I want you to write these dates down. Senator Cynthia Lummis confirmed publicly that the Senate Banking Committee bill will be merged with the already passed Senate Agriculture Committee bill. They will wrap in the ethics language. They will add the technical refinements to the Genius Act, and they will present the combined package on the Senate floor this summer. Lummis herself said June is optimistic, but not impossible. The realistic window is a Senate floor vote within the next several weeks, with full passage and signature targeted before the end of summer. Prediction markets currently show a 64% probability the Clarity Act becomes law in this calendar year, and that number is climbing. Once it is signed, the implementation window is approximately 18 months. But here is what nobody on the news is telling you. Institutional capital does not wait for implementation day. Institutional capital moves the moment certainty exists. The 18-month runway is for compliance teams, not for capital allocators. The capital front-runs the law. It always has. When the Clarity Act passes, the wait-and-see money becomes the all-in money. The risk premium that has suppressed digital asset valuations for nearly a decade vanishes overnight. And the assets that are already legally clear, the assets that already have a court ruling, already have functional enterprise integrations, already have institutional custody pipelines, those are the assets that absorb the first wave of capital. There is exactly one digital asset on the market that fits all three of those criteria simultaneously. You already know which one. We are moving from an era of abundance into an era of scarcity. And most people will not understand this until it is mathematically too late to participate. Ripple Treasury orchestrated $13 trillion in payments last year with 0% settled in crypto. The moment that figure starts moving, and it will move in steps of 1%, 2%, 5%, the demand pressure on XRP liquidity becomes structural rather than speculative. Structural demand does not show up as a green candle. It shows up as a permanent floor that never breaks again. Once a token enters a multi-signature institutional vault, the kind operated by BNY Mellon, Fidelity Digital Assets, or a Ripple custody partner, it does not return to the open market for a 10% profit. It is gone, it is collateral, it is settlement reserve. It is operational liquidity for a payment corridor that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The institutions have spent the last 4 years engineering the conditions for you to sell them your position. The lawsuits, the FUD cycles, the sideways price action, the endless content cycle of disappointment, all of it served one function: to convert the impatient holder into exit liquidity for the patient one. When the final regulatory switch is flipped, the retail entry point as we currently understand it ceases to exist. You will not be buying whole tokens. You will be buying drops. And the people who held through the boredom will be the ones writing the next chapter of this market. The door is closing, quickly. I know it's tough to watch. I know the price action feels disconnected from the news flow. I know that every week another headline drops and the chart barely flinches. But as an analyst, my job is to distinguish noise from signal. And the signal right now is the loudest it has been in this asset's entire history. The German analyst said it perfectly. The fundamentals are the owner walking forward. The price is the dog still sniffing around. The dog always catches up to the owner. Always. The only question is whether you are still on the leash when it happens, or whether you got tired and went home. Being early feels exactly like being wrong, right up until the moment reality catches up. And reality is catching up faster than most people realize. The Genius Act is law. The Clarity Act is in committee. Ripple is acquiring the rails. The institutions are filing the paperwork. The regulators are drawing the maps. Everything you have been waiting for is happening right now, in real time, in front of your eyes. The only thing missing is the price catching up to the structure. And the price always catches up to the structure. It is the most reliable pattern in the entire history of financial markets. The question isn't whether the cell phone gets built. Tom Emmer just told you it's being built. The question is who is still holding when the network goes live. Make sure to like and subscribe and drop a comment below with your opinion on XRP. And watch until the end, because the final minutes reveal why July 13th could change everything. Genius is the cell tower. Clarity is the cell phone. And XRP is the network that carries the signal between them. Price is a distraction. Structure is the reality. One is a candle, the other is a foundation. The crowd is watching the candle. The informed are watching the foundation. If you made it to the end of this breakdown, drop the word structure in the comments below. I want to see who actually understood what we just walked through, because the next 12 months are going to separate the people who paid attention from the people who are still asking why nothing is happening. In a market fueled by emotion and noise, we thrive on data and composure. Haste leads to loss. Calm analysis leads to victory. Stay patient. Stay rational. The math doesn't lie, and the system is almost complete. I'm the calm analyst. We don't wait for the future. We position for it.